Electric car challenges, a first-hand experience. Good morning, friends, and welcome back. On her first road trip with her Volkswagen ID.3, she regretted this choice and wrote to us. We spoke on the phone, and I'll let you listen to an excerpt of our conversation. Hello? Yes, good morning, Petra. This is Carl Schmidt. Oh my God, I've always seen you in videos. Can you talk? Is it a good time? Yes, I was just on the phone with the dealership and I told them, but you know, the salespeople don't know anything. This is what shocked me. He's only sold 5 electric cars. Okay, he's not completely ignorant, so I kind of reprimanded them because you have to know what you're selling. Your customer asks you about performance, and you have to tell them exactly how things work. I relied heavily on your videos, and they were a great help. I bought it used because I could never afford to spend 40,000 euros on a car. I managed to achieve my dream thanks to the used car. What was the bad experience that really got me down? It was this trip, my first road trip. I was going to Cologne, so I had to go to Hamburg near Rostock. I mean, even on the way back, I found ultra-fast charging stations, the usual ones on the Autobahn, but they didn't charge more than 40 kilowatts. The outward journey was very chaotic because my fear and anxiety made me make more stops. The first thing that happened is that I realized that the range was less than I expected. I stopped earlier, and instead of taking 10, 15 minutes, it took half an hour to charge those few kilowatts. I made a second stop, and it was long too, and in short, I don't know how it ended up. The journey from 9 o'clock in the morning, I arrived in Hamburg at 3:30 in the afternoon. Excuse me, but I understood that this blessed heat pump was for that. There's a difference between a pump. The heat pump has nothing to do with battery heating. Oh, you see, I understood that. I chose it with the heat pump, thinking it kept the batteries at the ideal temperature. There is still no culture, no understanding. Customers don't understand that even if they are enthusiastic, they should ask a few questions, like you say in your video. How are you set up at home? Where can you recharge it? What kind of trips will you make? What kind of use will you make? What kind of needs do you have? Then you build a possibility and give them an answer. Can this work for you? Okay, but to go and sell something that the other person then discovers on the road, and I'm absolutely positive and try to learn, etc., but someone else might get very annoyed. Not everyone is so tolerant. You just heard an excerpt from a phone call that lasted about half an hour with our follower. Our reader and follower chose to buy an electric car by watching our videos and reading our articles and is basically satisfied with her choice. She talked about fulfilling a dream. She saw all the advantages in the electric car that we talk about every day. However, what happened, and what is equally important to tell, is what I have feared for a long time. At the beginning, only early adopters, the nerds more informed than the sellers, were approaching the electric car. Now people who simply need a car and don't want to know much more about it are also approaching the electric car. Above all, they haven't necessarily had the tools to do so. Our follower is denouncing precisely this. She says, I talked to the car salesman and told him, look, you have to inform people. You can't sell an electric car as if it were any other car. I believe that this, in part, is probably, historically, have never expected to receive information from the seller, regardless of the product. Let's talk about products other than cars, technology products, or food products. I have always felt that I had to actively seek out information myself, especially today when it is much easier to do so than maybe even just 10, 15, 20 years ago. But this isn't everyone's approach, and I see the risk. The phone call is proof that people who are basically not prepared come to buy electric cars. If on the one hand the electric car offers a whole series of huge advantages, on the other hand it is undeniable that, for use that goes beyond the daily one, for journeys that go beyond the car's range, especially in situations where you can't charge at home but are forced to plan a journey, to use public charging facilities, to understand the dynamics related to charging times or charging methods, well, in all these cases you can find yourself in difficulty. In another video, I talked about the big flaw of the electric car, that it is a product that does not tell itself, not yet at least, not with the prior knowledge that those who sit in a car have today if they haven't driven an electric car. This is where our follower found some difficulties. For example, no one had ever told her before that recharging times can be negatively affected by temperature. In this case, she was driving a Volkswagen ID.3, a car that I know quite well. Despite having a battery temperature control system, it does not have a controllable active temperature control system where I can tell the car, look, I'm going to recharge at that charging station, so preheat the battery and allow me to recharge at the maximum power. This wasn't possible. The battery was probably cold when she fast charged at the station and didn't recharge at 80, 90, 100 kilowatts of power, but only recharged at 40 kilowatts of power, which lengthened the charging time. The other difficulty she found was this. She planned the trip, but looking at the infamous range estimator and seeing this number go down very quickly, she didn't trust the system and felt she had to stop more often and recharge a little more. This stretched the times, not so much because there was a problem with the car. There was not the right information at the right time, or there was no information that the follower felt she could trust. All of this created problems and meant that her experience of using the car was less than it could have been if she had known the car well, or if the salesperson had simply given her more information. I often denounce this too of all the new models that I try. If the technology on board the car had been good enough to ensure that she, even without too much prior knowledge, could make the most of it, because sometimes the difference between a good product and a mediocre product is not the amount of energy storable in the battery, consumption, or other characteristics of the car, but the right balance between what the car is able to do and what the technology on board is able to communicate, so the driver can use everything that is available. Let me know what you think about all this. Do you believe that the products on the market are adequate for people's needs? Do you think that even those who know nothing about an electric car can use it as if it were a combustion car? If not, what do you think is necessary to ensure that this can happen one day soon?